Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Sin and Tonic. Today's story is that of Sharon Lopatka. We're going to discuss consensual murder. Interesting. Let's go. Sin and Tonic! Hi guys, how are we? Hope you're all okay. I am still recovering. Oh, sorry if my voice... I've brought myself up a coffee. Look at this cup. Hang on. Oh, and the lipstick, enjoy that. What does it say? Your limited edition. Damn right. Hot liquids. Yes. So I'm on the hot liquids and yeah, I'm definitely better than I was. It was not a good week. Oh, and my hair. Oh my God, sorry, totally forgot. When you feel poorly, do you ever just sometimes like you just want to... I just wanted to feel a bit more vibrant. I was really fed up of feeling crappy, so I dyed my hair. I was like, I'm just going to have red hair and I'm going to feel vibrant and it's going to look awesome. And that is all true, but I have also dyed my bathroom, the floor mat, towels, numerous towels. It's been a long time since I've done my own hair, years. But yeah, I think it looks all right. Without further ado, let's dive on into today's case. We're going to the US of A, Maryland, and I'm not sure if I'm saying her surname correctly, Sharon Lopatka. Because I don't know, I'm going to call her Sharon throughout the case. Sharon was born in 1961. She was the eldest of 4 children and her parents were devout Orthodox Jews. And then in 1991, she met somebody called Victor. I can't say the name, Victor. It's gone mental in my brain. All I can think of is Victor. Victor! Oh my God. She married Victor in 1991, but her parents were really not happy about it because Victor was a Catholic, not a Jew. That causes lots of trouble, doesn't it, sometimes? Sharon seems like an entrepreneur. So when the internet came about, it's weird to think of a time before the internet. Do you remember MySpace? Oh my God, MySpace. Sharon took full advantage of the internet and she started making businesses online. At first, I believe she was sort of doing proofreading and writing things for businesses and just charging a small fee, things like that. And then she also had a website that was for psychic readings. That must have just gone ba-boom. Ba-boom. Think of all of the businesses. Everything is online now. But in those early days, it must have just been like, wow. What? I mean, I was a teenager. I wasn't setting up businesses, but I was on MySpace. But can you imagine, in business, that must have been huge. And you can just put yourself out there, much like we're so used to it now. Anyway, don't know, history lesson with Sophie, but yeah. And this is where it gets spicy, right? Because, okay, bear with. So she started off writing little things for companies, charging $50 for that and psychic readings. And then somehow we go from that to selling pornographic content. What happened there? What happened there? Sadly, obviously with the internet, as well as all of the great things, and you can have your businesses online and all of that, then there's the awful side of the internet, which would you just get rid of the internet to get rid of the bad stuff as well? Do you see what I mean? It's almost... Sometimes I just think, yeah, when you think of all the sick stuff and the sick businesses, they're not businesses, it's criminal, but you know what I mean. What was, dare I say, clever about this endeavour? Rhymes. First of all, she used a pseudonym, Nancy Carlson, didn't use her real name, first one, good. And then she advertised pornographic content, saying things like, I've just filmed willing and unwilling women being drugged, knocked out, chloroform, and on she goes to describe the content of said videos. Then people would pay her money for her to send that video, and then she never sent it. So it was a scam. It was a scam. She was preying on the depravity of these people, and well, that worked, didn't it? So she was making a nice little number out of that. And who's going to report you to the police? Oh, I ordered a horrific video from this woman and she never sent it to me. Good one. This one gets me as well, right? So she expanded upon this. She then started to sell used underwear. You won't believe, right? I worked for a charity, and secondhand clothing and things like that, selling things like that. And people would email a legitimate charity business thing, you know, like would email and be like, have you got any used underwear? Jog on. From what I gather, she did genuinely send the used underwear, but that could have been a scam as well. Just scamming all over the place. So she was fully immersed in the internet and all of its delightful offerings. She also enjoyed the chat rooms, discussion boards, and this is where she started to sort of play out, you know, her fantasies with other people. So she would talk about them and her fetishes and things like that. These involved bondage, sadomasochism, and necrophilia, really. One of her biggest fantasies, just it blows my mind how these thought processes and things come into someone's mind. It's only in my mind because I've researched and read about it, but how does that appear? How do these fantasies develop? That's interesting. Anyway, so her biggest sort of fantasy, her fascination, was being tortured to death. As is often the case with these cases, Sharon's fantasies, they grew, and she really was honed in on it. So she was sending many messages every single day on a variety of different fetish websites. Now, most men that she spoke to would chat with her about her fantasy, believing that it was simply that, it was just a fantasy, and they would sort of, they were obviously all getting off on it, weren't they? And then when they realised that, you know, I think they sort of would go into private chats with her and things like that, and when they realised that she was genuinely serious and that she actually wanted somebody to torture her to death, they were out of there. Like, okay, bye-bye, no. You know. And these message boards and discussion things, they are about talking about your fantasies. It's very rare for somebody to, I say it like I know, I don't, but that's the gist of it, that you're there to share your mutual interests, I suppose. I can't think of another way to say it, but that's what you're there for. Like, you're all there chatting about, oh, you know, I like this and I like that. So I've never been on one. I'm interested to go, but I'm terrified. Can you imagine actually logging on to something like that? Sometimes I find it questionable. Like, if anyone looked at my search history because of Sin and Tonic, be like, wow, what is wrong with this girl? Anyhow, so yeah, everyone, when they realised that she was deadly serious, pardon the pun, about being tortured to death, they like, hold your horses, love. And then Sharon met somebody online called Robert Glass, 45 years old. He lived in North Carolina and he was a computer analyst. Robert was married and had 3 children, and his wife was called Sherry. She went on to say that he was, obviously, like, computers, that was his job, but that he was on the computer a lot at home, and it was, you know, increasing the amount of time that he was on the computer. And also he was very distracted, and their marriage was not going well. Sherry started to sort of doubt what was going on, because he was on the computer all the time. He wasn't really seeming interested in her and their marriage, and, you know, it just seemed to be a bit flat, and like he had lost all of his love and attraction for her. And then she decided to have a little peek on his computer, because I suspect that she thought he was having an affair. And I mean, she wasn't really wrong, really. And she found many emails, and they were, as you can imagine, just violent, disturbed, grim. So he also had these fantasies. He'd met Sharon online, so they were obviously on the same forums and things, and he had his own disturbing fantasies and visions of what he would like to do to somebody else. And Sherry had no idea about this side of him, bless her. So she found all of that, and then in May 1996, she decided to leave. Now, Sharon and Robert, they seemed to be like a perfect storm, really. Sharon was expressing her desire to be tortured, and Robert expressed desire to be violent. So, like, perfect match, if you will. She would say in emails, there were 900 emails, by the way. 900 over like 2 months. So where do you have the time for this? In these emails, she would share that she would like to be tortured and that she would like to be strangled while reaching, the big O. In email, she had spoken about torture and things like that as well. Things would reach a crescendo on the 13th of October in 1996. So after talking for a couple of months, they decided to actually meet up. Sharon told Victor that she was going to see friends in Georgia, but actually she got on a train and she went to North Carolina. Is North Carolina southern? Carolina. Stop. So she travels like all day to get there. Must be quite far. America's huge. And then Robert picks her up from the train station, and then they drive another 80 miles to his cabin, trailer home. In the meantime, poor Victor, he comes home and he finds a note from Sharon, and you just can't imagine it. Now, was he aware, I wonder? Was he aware of her? He must have been aware of some of her kinks and stuff, because he can't have been that oblivious. She was using the internet to sell underwear. So he must have had an inkling, and I'm not sure. Anyhow, he gets this letter and it says, I'm going to read some of it. So, if my body is never retrieved, don't worry, know that I am at peace. Victor then rang the police. And isn't it I find that line in her letter, I find that a bit sort of more telling, sort of like an unalive yourself letter, Do you see what I mean? Two sides of it, isn't there? So she's got this sort of uncontrollable fetish and fantasy, but it also involves the end of her life, and yeah, it's a really odd case, because it's such a complex thing for that person to have in their brain. The police looked on her computer and they found all of these emails between her and Robert. So they did some investigation, because they used pseudonyms on the computer, but they obviously were able to trace who he really was. And then the police in North Carolina, they went to his trailer and they sort of put him under surveillance, because they wanted to see if she was there, if Sharon was with him. And they surveilled, is that a word? Surveilled him. They watched him for 3 days and they never saw Sharon. So that, that's not ideal. They were hoping that they would find her with him, but they didn't. On the 25th of October 1996, a judge issued a search warrant for the trailer, Robert's trailer, and the police went in while he was at work. I thought you had to be there, but maybe not. Anyway, so they searched his trailer when he was at work, and they found all sorts, including some of Sharon's belongings. So now it's not looking good at all, is it? Because they know that she's been there, but they haven't seen her for 3 days. And they find a gun, drugs, they find bondage, bits and bobs, don't know what you call it, gear, don't know, paraphernalia. And they also, most disturbingly and upsettingly, they found some child pornography as well. But no Sharon. While they were at the trailer, they noticed that not very far at all from his trailer was a fresh mound of soil. Very suspicious. So they dug that up and they found Sharon's decomposing body. They arrested Robert that very day, and his story, we will never know the truth, but he said that it was actually an accident. So for a few days they had acted out their sexual fantasies and everything was consensual, and you can believe that, looking at the emails and things like that. She was up for it. And at one point when they were, you know, doing their thing, he had put a rope round her neck and she had consented to this, and then he had pulled on that rope and he must have pulled too hard. He said it was an accident, he didn't mean to kill her. So that is questionable, isn't it? Because she wanted that to be her demise. So whether he meant to or not is we'll never know. The autopsy showed that she had indeed died from strangulation, and it also showed that she had died about 3 days after she'd arrived at the trailer. So that was like backing up his story. He said they'd been having fun for 3 days and then he'd accidentally killed her. So that was all, you know, matching his story. The thing that was unusual, sounds like the wrong word to use, the thing that was surprising is in lots of the emails she had talked about being tortured and all of these ways in which she would want to be tortured, and he was in, like, he wanted to inflict violence as well, but her body didn't show any signs of torture. There wasn't anything like that. So all it showed was that she had been strangled. Robert was charged with first-degree murder. Now, I find this interesting, isn't it? Oh God, I just find these ones interesting. So the argument for first-degree murder was that all of the emails between Robert and Sharon, they had detailed exactly how he was to kill her. So he'd actually, and for that reason, it was first-degree murder, because it was premeditated, and it was premeditated murder, although he was saying that he accidentally did it. But from the emails, it was a premeditated act. However, yes, it was premeditated, and he had agreed to it, but she was a willing participant in her own death. So I literally don't know what I think or feel about this one, because I don't. He was, yes, he murdered her, 100%. Yes, it was premeditated. He'd emailed her and they talked about it. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. She wanted that to happen. I find it, I find that my brain just go, spaghetti. In the end, the charge was dropped to voluntary manslaughter, and he pleaded guilty to that in 2000. He also pleaded guilty to the 6 counts of child pornography that were found on his computer. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison. However, so he served two of those. And then, I mean, to be honest, right, I don't know. The fact that he actually did murder somebody, he's very susceptible to that, isn't he? Like, oh, will you kill me? Yes, please. Like, he's still a dangerous person. 6 years, I think, is quite light. Don't you? I think that's a slap on the wrist. And then he only served 2. I think he'd already been in for 3 years. So effectively, I think he'd been in prison for 3 years awaiting his trial and everything. But still, he served 2 years of his actual sentence, and then he was set to be released. And then you won't believe this. So he was set to be released March 2002, and then on February the 20th, 2 weeks before he was set to be released, he suffered a fatal heart attack, and he died in prison before he was released. He was only 51 years old. So whether or not I think his sentence was light or not, it you know, it's a moot point, because he passed away. But yeah, what a case. What a case. Anyhow, right. I've made it through. Trusty coffee. I think my eyes crossed. I'm always doing that. What must people in my life just be thinking? Because I feel like I do it quite a lot. Hello. Just randomly, like, chatting to someone and then boom, eyes crossed. Interesting though, I suppose, isn't it? Brightens the conversation. Who is this mad woman? For a moment, I thought I wasn't recording that whole time. My heart just went like that. Calm down, heart. Anyhow, that is all I have for you on today's case. So, as you are probably aware, this case is coming to you on a Tuesday, to your face on a Tuesday, and you're like, what? Why? What's going on? What's happened? Don't fear. I will be back on Friday as well. I thought to myself, I'm just going to give it a go. I'm just going to double down and I'm going to be doing 2 videos a week. So enjoy. The only exception to that will be in the school holidays. The rest of the time, 2 videos a week, baby. To your face. I'm not going to stay long because my throat is starting to get tired, but have a beautiful week ahead and I'll be back on Friday. Oh my gosh, I'm really excited. Okay. All right, I shall see you then. Be good. Love you. Bye.